Hello, YouTube. Our little God of War Ragnarök stream is an adult now. Welcome to part 18. I am grateful that you made it through 16 and 17. I know 17 was loaded again with a lot of analysis. There's a lot to talk about because there's a lot happening. If you're enjoying this playthrough, please leave a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, maybe go through the backlog and thumbs up any videos that you haven't already. I realize that's asking you to do some work, but anything to help with the algorithm. The likes and the comments help immensely. Special shout out to those of you who leave comments. Really grateful that you do that. I love reading them. I don't respond to all of them, but I do read all of them. Thanks for keeping them spoiler free. We had a doozy of an episode in part 17. I said this to Twitch chat. I'm going to say it to y'all on YouTube as well. I'm going to try really hard this episode not to continuously rehash some of the same points that I've already made in 17 and 16. And so what that means is, like, I've now established that Odin is a master manipulator, so I'm not going to pick apart every single thing he does in the spirit of that. I will pick out things that are salient to me and are novel and maybe can get to more depth on what we've already talked about. I'm going to try really hard not to rehash that. Same thing with talking about the way in which Atreus' development as a teenager is intersecting with that. I think I've made my point if you've been paying attention through 16 and 17. So I'm going to try to keep it as novel as I can going forward. There may be some things that I repeat because it feels worth doing so, but know that I am very conscientious about the things that I'm analyzing and trying not to constantly repeat myself. All right, so without further ado, let's hit it. See what our boy Thor's up to.
I admit, that was fun. There were mountains of corpses by the time I finished. Cut down like the lava ran red with their blood. Rude.
Great. You want to help down here?
Wouldn't think you'd need my help if you beat all those trials. Or did you just watch your father do it? Hey, what's taking so long?
Thor is sassy boy.
You wouldn't believe the scores of these things I just killed. It was glorious.
Let's talk about Thor for a second. Because he's showing his hand right now, I think, in a way that he doesn't realize. Thor is big, strong, has Mjolnir. It's well established that he's a badass. Yet, he's kind of overdoing it. He's laying it on thick with the, rivers of blood and blah. Oh, I bet your dad did the whole thing and you just watched him. What reason does Thor have to do that with a teenager? He is Thor. Well, he thinks that he's coming off a bit as a badass here, potentially, but there's some insecurity there, or some doubt, I think. And there's probably some sense of threat that he is experiencing from Atreus and Kratos, maybe. But I think, again, this speaks to Odin. He spends a lot of time with Odin. If I recall correctly, Odin is his dad, correct? I think that's true. Well, Odin is really good at making sure that everybody around him is constantly in a state of doubt about their own convictions and share the convictions of him. So Thor, I think there's no way he's not subjected to that. So do I think that Thor is just dripping with insecurity and we just are completely misunderstanding him in the game? No, I think Thor does know he's a badass, but bragging to a child in this way and being as hyperbolic about his escapades here in Muspelheim, I think gives us a little bit of insight into his broader context that he's immersed in. Because Odin, for damn sure, wants to make sure that anybody who could kill him via brawn is not engaged with that. Odin needs to make sure that everybody around him is following his agenda. So, is Thor being overlooked? Is Thor being consistently cut down? I mean, Thor is essentially being treated as Odin's dog. You come here, do this, do that, go with Atreus, yada, yada, yada. Like, Thor's not exactly autonomous right now. So there may even be a part of him that's jealous of the fact that Atreus is out on his own and doing this. Like, damn, that's impressive as shit. So he's trying to cut him down. The other thing that he may also be dealing with, and this is something that you will see sometimes with people who have really manipulative and abusive parents and don't really know what to do with it, is they learn that one of the ways that you assert control over other people is to undercut them and to be an asshole. And so Thor may also be trying to seize control, and both of his narrative and of Atreus, by being an asshole because he's watched Odin do that passively. Yet he's not as good at it as Odin is. So it comes off as far more harsh. It's less subtle. The thing that makes Odin so dangerous is that he's subtle. Thor is not subtle. He's just a kind of a dick. But he rings as a person who's been overlooked.
Brood would love it. She'd be faring better than you at least.
Could it also be him sort of relishing that he has some latitude to do what he wants while he's on this mission? It certainly could. Again, like, there's all sorts of reasons. What stands out, like, that we could make, and unless we were actually able to talk to Thor about why he's acting the way he's acting, we won't actually know. Like, we're not going to actually know what his motivations are. I think at the end of the day, what stands out to me here is the process of what he's doing. The process of what he's doing is that he is creating hyperbolic language to describe his experience in the presence of a child or a teenager in a context where there's really not much reason to do it. So we don't generally want to take that at surface level necessarily and say like, oh, well, you know, he's probably just he's just proud of himself because he beat the shit out of people in Muspelheim. Maybe that is it. But when it doesn't make a ton of sense, given the context and the role that a person has, I think it's usually worthwhile to just pop yourself in a little bit deeper there and ask, why might he be doing that? So it certainly could be, Isaac. It certainly could be. Same thing for you, Dante. Like, what you're saying could also be true. As always, I don't claim that I know the truth on this. It's just, it pings my radar when we see process-wise and interactionally something that doesn't make a ton of sense given the context. Would there be some jealousy because Odin's treating Atreus better than he's treating Thor? He's actually not, though. So I don't know. Maybe if Thor is a bit dense and doesn't really understand what Odin's doing, sure. But I gotta believe that Thor has some level of understanding of how manipulative and abusive Odin is. So I don't know that the attention that Atreus is getting is what it appears to be. Like, the attention that Atreus is getting is like pure sinister manipulation on Odin's part. He doesn't actually care about Atreus. He's not actually trying to take care of him. He's not actually trying to empower him. He is trying to manipulate him into carrying out his agenda. So I don't know that we would call that treating Atreus well. It just appears that way on the surface because that's the way that he's reeling him in.
Could have done that at any time.
You seem to be handling yourself well enough. I was trusting you. So, where to?
Looks like we need to head through that gate.
Oh, yeah?
I had to do something while you were off fighting.
Well, check again anyways.
Fine.
Thor strikes me as how do I want to put this? When we originally ran into Thor back when we were playing as Kratos in part 1, I think it was very easy to be like, wow, Thor's a douche. Jesus. Chill. As we're talking with him now, I don't know about all of you, but I can feel a bit of the veneer coming off. I think he's letting his guard down a little bit here. And as he's letting his guard down a bit here, maybe re-engaging with some of the more human aspects of a relationship with Atreus, I think he's seeing that Atreus is a pretty genuine person. I think we're seeing that really deep inner desire to have that kind of relationship or that kind of engagement come out with Thor, and I actually feel kind of sad for him. Like he seems trapped to me. He seems like a once really powerful dog that has been trained into oblivion and just kind of sits in the corner of the living room with its tail between its legs and waits to be told what to do. So we're seeing the kind of like the early phases of what it is to be under Odin's thumb versus like the late stage phases of like resignation. And he has this little bit of a moment to be able to just flex himself and fight and do his thing. And it feels good. And Atreus facilitated that. And I just look at him standing here and he doesn't strike me as overtly intimidating. He's just kind of like there. And it's...
Where to now?
Even the tone of his voice. I find it pretty fascinating, his demeanor. I don't have a ton of context on Thor to know what he's actually like, but it does stand out.
Through the gate, like I said. Thor?
Ain't that impressive? Real god stuff.
You are a god.
You're damn right.
And so am I.
He knows it. He knows it. He knows he's been cut down. He knows that he's been diminished.
All father's waiting. Where's the mask say to go?
He sounds defeated. Like my abilities have essentially been reduced to utilitarian bullshit for Odin.
It's here. This is the spot.
Well, where is it? In the lava?
I don't know. No!
Jesus.
Ah! Damn it!
Some advice. Sticking your hand in lava is never gonna feel good.
Wasn't thinking.
Good. It's better that way. All right, let's get out of here. Oh. Look, don't try to play me again. You're an okay kid. You're still a giant, and I'll revel in killing you too.
did you do? Loki. The rift got brighter. Look, you did it.
Look, one of these phrases is complete now. We can read it all.
But you can't translate it.
Not yet.
See, I got a little theory. I think if we can find the rest of this, we can use it to look into that without, losing an eye or worse. Look at this. We make a good team. Don't we? Don't we? Make a good damn team?
Just like you and Baldur.
You both behave out there?
Thor was really great. I learned a lot from him.
You learned something from him? Really now?
Wow. Wow. There's so much to go for. So much to go for. First of all, when Thor says to Atreus, best not to think, it's better that way. I don't know that I have the entire reason for why he would say that. My best guess is thinking about what's happening critically means you are far more likely to see the incongruities in what's going on. You are more likely to poke holes in the things that you have been presented with. You are more likely to notice the ways in which you are either being manipulated or controlled or used, and that doesn't feel good. So when I hear Thor say that, to me, that sounds like resignation of I'm tired of thinking about all this stuff, because when I think about this stuff, it destroys me. When I think about my relationship to my father and what that means relative to the relationship with my brother, it feels terrible. I feel dismissed. I don't know why. I can't get my father's approval. Yada, yada, whatever it might be. I'm this big, strong God, and what does it all mean? He's essentially the depressive side of what it means to engage with existential thoughts. So just don't even think about it, Atreus, and just go through the motions, dude. You'll be way better for it. I think is really more insight into the way that Thor has learned to cope with his situation. And again, you always learn a lot about people through the language they use to engage with others that they perceive to be in either similar situations or whatnot. Now, to get to the dynamic between Odin and Thor here, the frame that we always have to use with Odin, I think, and I'm not really afraid to go here with Odin in particular, is that Odin at any given point in time is always trying to control the engagement. One of the greatest assets he has as a person manipulator, person in power, is his ability to control engagements through the way in which he subverts people, cuts them down, empowers them here, reduces them there, compares them here. He is constantly puppeteering every single engagement he is in. So, you have two people in front of you that are powerful in their own ways. Thor, he has infinitely more history with, by virtue of the fact that Thor is his son, than he does with Atreus. So, what's a good way to... He doesn't have strength over Thor. Thor could crush Odin in a second. But what he does have is emotional power. So what does he do? He dismisses him. He looks at Atreus and he has a certain bite in his voice, a certain disgust in his voice when he talks about Thor, like relative to Baldur. When Thor brings up Baldur and very clearly insinuates that it's bothersome for him to think about who he is in comparison to his brother in the eyes of his father, Odin basically ignores it, dismisses him. So dismiss Thor's vulnerabilities, make him appear to be nowhere what he looks like in front of Atreus, and make it very clear that you are unimportant to me. That's worse for a child, often, by the way, particularly a child who wants to gain the favor of their parent. It's almost easier to be hated by your parent than it is for your parent to be apathetic towards you, to have no emotional pull at all in your presence. One of the best ways to punish a young child is to be emotionless when you create a punishment and when you follow through with it. And this is the adult to adult version of that. It's nothing but apathy with Odin. And judgment by way of like, let me empower Atreus. Like, Atreus, you are standing next to Thor, and as far as I'm concerned, Thor's a piece of shit. Thor doesn't mean anything to me. You, on the other hand, goddamn. And he knows that that's going to appeal to Atreus because Atreus wants to be, he's a giant. I'm a god too. I'm this, I'm that. Odin needs Atreus to consistently feel empowered because he does not possess the skills to take him out. So he can emotionally empower him. Thor, on the other hand, he has to undercut and diminish. And so he's sitting here with two puppet strings doing exactly what he needs to do to control the engagement. And again, that's what makes Odin terrifying. And this is one of the ways in which he does this is through understanding the things that are going to push and pull on the insides of the people that he's around. So it's very powerful the way that he just did that. Very powerful. And so he says, oh, aren't we a good team to Thor? Empower Atreus, diminish Thor. That was passive aggressive. So he doesn't need Thor thinking about how bad all of this is. He needs Thor to be like, go here, doggy.
Okay. What did you teach the kid?
Nothing. What could I possibly teach him?
Exactly. I was wondering where that went. Actually, I had a pretty good idea. Change of heart.
I'm not really sure why I came to Asgard, but I realize now it wasn't to be a spy. I need you to know you can trust me. And if I'm gonna help you take this to the end, I need to be able to trust you.
And trust is earned. I get it. Take this.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. This hurts. This really hurts. Atreus can't keep up with Odin. He can't. He can't. And this is the kind of bravado that will get you in trouble when you don't have the broader strokes idea of what it is that you're going into here. This is a varsity basketball player walking up to Kevin Durant saying, I could beat you in one-on-one. Without saying I could beat you in one-on-one. That's what's happening here. And everybody around is like, no, you can't. Like, Atreus can't keep up with Odin. Odin's already so far ahead of him. That, and what's interesting to me is Odin even tried to let that on a little bit here by saying to Atreus, I had a theory of where that went. Right? He even tries to convey, I know more about you than you think. And Atreus thinks that he is clever. He thinks he's smart. He thinks he knows how to play Odin. Odin has thought of every trick in the book. Every single manipulative trick that exists in this world, Odin knows it. At least that's the assumption that we should make. So for Atreus to think he can play Odin, nope. And the problem is Odin's going to play along with this. Odin's going to want Atreus to think that he's got him. But he doesn't. Odin controls this engagement completely. Completely. Atreus just literally does not possess the brain power to do this. There is not a single, honestly, I really mean this, there's not a single person in all the world that I would trust to go toe-to-toe against Odin in terms of manipulation. there's just nobody's going to be able to do it. It's going to require the masses to turn against him.
Figure out the rest of it. If you're staying, that is.
You're gonna tell me what you're really looking for in there.
Translate that, and I'll tell you everything. And on that, young man, you can trust me.
Palpatine versus Odin, who out-manipulates who? Probably Odin because he has more time under his belt.
You always this hard on Thor? Seems like you're mad at him or something.
Ooh, getting nosy, getting personal. No, I get it, but it's nothing like that. It's, well, to be honest, it's the only language he understands, and I'm serious. Go ahead and try being nice to him. See where that gets you.
So, about the sword. Is Ingrid the name of the soul inside it? I wonder why I can't hear her.
Soul? Who said anything about... Look, son, some free advice. You don't want to let anyone catch you talking to your sword, all right? It's a bad look.
Terrifying. I've made my point in 17 and even here into 18. Odin is blaming, he's victim blaming Thor. A point that I've probably made in every single playthrough so far, and I think this is the time where I need to make it here, is there is an immense value in being the first to plant a seed. Because when you, like, the reason that first impressions are so powerful, the reason why the first explanation of something from somebody you perceive to be an expert is so important, is because you don't have a point of reference prior to that point. So when you get that first impression or that first piece of knowledge, it becomes the template or foundation from which all subsequent explanations are compared. So Atreus goes into this with some genuine curiosity about Thor and the nature of Odin's relationship to Thor. Well, Odin doesn't need Atreus poking around at that, because the reality of the situation is very likely that Odin has cultivated that on purpose for a not so great reason. But he's not going to tell Atreus that, because if he tells Atreus that, then it means that Atreus could potentially connect the dots and say, well, if he's capable of doing that to Thor, then is he capable of doing that to me? And now you have him doing the thinking that Thor so generously warned him that he shouldn't be doing when he's in this context of Odin. So instead, what he does is he blames Thor and provides an explanation about Thor that in a very roundabout way makes sense of, I have tried to be nice to Thor and it didn't work. So this is how I have to talk to him, because that's how he is. Now, whether that's true or not is not important. What matters here is that that's now the explanation that Atreus has. And until he gets a significant body of information and has a certain amount of experience that goes against what Odin just said to him, that's the assumption that he's going to operate off of. So This is an example of a very passive, subtle, and nefarious way that Odin can control engagement and perception of the people around him. Because what the statement underneath the statement here is I tried. I have worked very hard to try to cultivate a relationship with my son, and it didn't work when I tried to be nice like I am to you, which means Thor is probably less than you. That's a whole other thing. So what I've done is I have really listened and paid attention to my son such that I have come to the conclusion and realization that I have to be a dick to him in order to get through to him. That's the subtext of what Odin said here. It saves his face, it blames Thor, it diverts accountability, and it leaves it so that now Atreus has to work from that template.
All right, come along, Hugin.
Got a lot of Hacksilver laying around. Yeah, and Thor being who he is and being cut down in the way that he is going to reinforce that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Odin knows what he's doing, man. He knows what he's doing.
How much time does he spend reading? Kinda jealous.
Alrighty. I have a question, chat, and you can answer this, but please only answer it yes or no. Is Tyr Aesir? I think the answer is no. You can answer the question, yes or no. He's a giant, but yes. Why am I seeing yeses and nos? Does his lore entry say? Where the hell is Tyr? Where the hell is Tyr? Tyr is indeed Aesir. Okay. Okay. Just curious. Oh, he's in Kratos' lore book? Okay. He is Aesir. Okay, that's all I needed to know. Thank you. Why do I ask? The reason I ask is because Tyr has referred to Atreus as Loki, and the only other people that I've ever heard refer to Atreus as Loki are Aesir. So I was just curious about that because it just kind of stood out to me.
Hey, you're back. How was it? Did Father behave himself?
Yeah, I mean, better than I would have expected, I guess.
Is that the sword from Grandfather's study?
Oh yeah, her name's Ingrid.
Hi, Ingrid. Wow, Allfather must really trust you. Well, glad you survived your first day.
Hey, me too.
Tomorrow, we talk about Valkyries.
Definitely.
I don't want any additional context around what I asked about. I just wanted a yes or no. Just a heads up, chat, because I don't want potential spoilers or anything to come out. I just was curious, yes or no, if he was Aesir. That's all.
Did you think that I would be?
Well, it's a pretty good sword.
I'm sure. I'm not angry. I'm concerned. You know that's not what I want for her.
You don't want her to have a sword.
But it's not about having a sword. It's about what you use it for. I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do. And I don't want that for her either, okay? You don't have to worry. She's a smart girl. Smarter than her father.
Well, when you're right, you're right. Come here.
No, God, don't need to hear the rest of that. That's interesting. You can hear a little bit of a softer side to Thor. Okay. Back to his quarters. All right. Jareth, thank you for the raid, bud. Welcome in.
Well, this has been a weird day. Exactly.
All right. Congrats, Jareth.
Good morning, brother. No news, I'm afraid.
I have a plan.
Do you now?
The Norns. You found them once. Could you do so again?
I could try, but I don't see how that would
They
help.
are the fates of these lands, are they not? I would know what they know,
You may not find them cooperative.
as long as I find them. Where do we search?
Midgard. But if Atreus is in Asgard, there's no getting him back without an army. We should be raising one.
Yes, nothing like a catastrophic war to improve the situation. The boy seems quite capable. Perhaps if you simply give him some time.
You are not free of blame here. You encouraged his foolishness, his confusion. I do not seek war. But if Odin has stolen my son, do not doubt the lengths I will go to.
Your nature has always been clear, Kratos. But you, Freya. War as a first resort. That's not the Freya I knew. I hope the Norns can give you the counsel you need. Perhaps mine is no longer of use here.
Tyr, stop. This is no time to divide ourselves further.
Oh, woof. Okay. One of DrMick's greatest pet peeves in all of human interaction is what Tyr just did. It drives me absolutely bonkers. And I'm going to try to be empathic here in the way that we conceptualize what he just did, because it is a dynamic that I think many people are probably all too familiar with at least one person in your life, or you may be the person who does what we're going to talk about here. If you want to know what one of the most frustrating dynamics of projection interactionally looks like, it is what Tyr just did. He did two things. First thing is that it became pretty clear to him that he was not helping. Kratos shows frustration with him. Freya shows a bit of frustration with him. And Tyr made an assumption about why it is that they are frustrated with him. And that frustration, or that assumption, is that they perceive him as like unhelpful or burdensome. And instead of taking ownership of that and acknowledging and asking and being curious about, hey, okay, so I realize here, it seems like I'm not being particularly helpful. How can I be helpful? Right? Like, make it about the engagement. Make it about the shortcoming. Just own that there's some sort of disconnect here and lean into, all right, how do we repair this? Like, what is it that I can provide that you guys would perceive to be helpful? Because I'm getting a sense that what I'm saying is not. Which would cultivate a really nice conversation. Instead, what he does is he pulls out and he takes the projection and he states it as fact, essentially, by saying, you know, I'm not helpful, so I'm just going to go. As if I'm doing you a favor by doing that. And he's doing that so that they'll chase him, as Freya just did. And you hear that audible from Freya that so many people in this situation give, which is like, dude, that's not what this is about. And that is an immediate hierarchy move. Tyr has seized the power in that moment because he has activated Freya to chase him. He's got it back. But he's gotten it back as if he's some sort of sympathetic figure. Oh, no, Tyr, no, we love you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you when I told you that I was frustrated with you. When I set a boundary and made it clear that you weren't being helpful. It's a complete Uno reverse card. And somebody like Freya, who is intensely empathic, is going to grab that and go. And she follows him. And as soon as she follows him, he's got the power. If you are a person that does this, when you show up in an engagement and people essentially give you feedback that you're not being helpful in the way that they need, don't do this. Be curious about what it is that you're doing that's unhelpful. Be curious with yourself. Be empathic towards yourself. We all miss the mark sometimes. The people you see this the most from are caretakers. When people they're taking care of suggest they don't need their help, you'll see this. But don't do that. Do literally anything but that. Because it creates a really gross dynamic where essentially you have to create yourself as being a victim or tragic figure in order to garner attention from people around you. And that's not the dynamic you want. And if you're in this situation where somebody does what Tyr does, let him walk. Don't chase him. Don't do the, oh no, that's not what we meant. Because you're copping to something that you're not actually accountable for. You could say, knock it off, or fine, go. If that's what you think you need to do. Right? Like, take it at surface value. Be like, if you think you need to go, fine. If that's what you want to do. I didn't tell you to leave, but you can go if that's what you think you need to do. You push the accountability back to that person. Now, why does this drive me even more bonkers? That doesn't feel... okay. Tyr feels off to me. Okay, so since part 16 when Freya showed up, he's changed. He feels way different since Freya showed up. And I don't know if it's because of his history with Freya. I don't know if she intimidates him. I don't know if he looks at her as being somebody that he could be in terms of like he's trying to be this like bastion of peace, and but he's like pushing real hard on Freya being this peaceful rather than vindictive person, which shows that he doesn't really understand like where she's been coming from, and he doesn't really understand that she's working her ass off right now to maintain peace with Kratos. He has changed significantly since Freya showed up. And I wish I knew more about the nature of their relationship, because his contrast from being, I mean, truly, and not only does he look like it, but like truly, he was pretty Jesus-like when we met him. Like, he's very like, peace and love, man. Like, let's just all come together. I don't want to do war anymore. Like, oh, like, you know, let's just all be chill, man. Like, this would be cool. And then like Freya shows up, and now all of a sudden he's like hijacking a conversation and making it about him. In this moment, he does this like manipulation dealio. Like, he's scrambled in some kind of way that has got me to a point where I'm like, what are his motivations here? Because something feels very off about this. It's an odd time for him to take on. It's like I realize I'm rambling a lot here, but there's a lot going on for me as I'm thinking about Tyr. Like, the other thing that stands out to me is that he took the side of Kratos and Freya and Mimir and Brock and Sindri when Atreus suggested like he was going to go to Asgard. And then when Atreus is gone, he takes the oppositional approach with Kratos and Freya, where he's like, oh, well, you know, he's pretty strong and capable. Maybe it was a good idea. It's very inconsistent. It's very inconsistent. Like, Kratos is like, dude, you're part of the problem. You're part of the reason this happened. You were right there with us when we pushed Atreus to do this. And Tyr's like, no, man, actually, maybe it was for the better. Which means one of two things. It means one of two things. It either means that Tyr took their side because he wanted to push Atreus to go and to flex his autonomy, which is a bit odd. or he's trying to play to the middle ground in a way that is like immensely detrimental to his position right now with everybody here. There is a chaotic element to his existence right now that is maybe because of a lack of development on his part of actually fitting into the role that he's trying to take on by being a man of peace. But you don't create peace by taking an oppositional role to the key element of what's happening in an interaction. You cultivate peace by seeking to understand, by not passively aggressively leaving the situation when people suggest you're not being helpful. If you want to truly be helpful, you truly want peace, you truly want to listen, you stay there and you try to figure it out. It is incredibly odd to me the way that he has acted since Freya showed up. Like, really, Freya is the only element of this that stands out to me as different. And I don't really understand why he's acting this way, but like, I am increasingly becoming less trusting of his presence. And it's odd to me. Really odd to me. Getting Freya to chase him is really something. That is, I think, what is that's really getting me. His reaction to her when she showed up. And
Come, sit, please.
I love that the focus is on them right now.
You have been quiet.
Frankly, I'm surprised you, of all people, would seek out fate. But your instincts haven't let us down so far. Let's find the Norns.
Who am I to offer him counsel? I only hoped to help the boy find his answers. And I failed. What's my role in all this now?
Tyr, you're at the center of this. You always have been. That's why Odin imprisoned you in the first place. He's terrified of you.
I doubt that very much.
It's the truth. And not just because of prophecies. No one has ever united the realms as you once did.
That is not who I am anymore.
I know you feel that way now.
What did I just say 20 minutes ago is the thing that's the most terrifying for Odin? Unity. Like, literally the only thing that's going to take Odin down is if all the realms are united. So Odin must have really beat the shit out of Tyr and cut him down to get him into a position where he isn't recognizing that. Like, you did this before. This worked. There's gotta, maybe you don't have to be violent, but maybe there's another way to get everybody around. Like, it's like, damn, dude. Like, that's the thing. Of course Odin's terrified of you, brother. If you could do that, you can take him down. If you're that guy, whoo, who would be another person capable of potentially doing that? Freya's brother, Freyr. Because he united the dwarves. Or not the dwarves, the elves. Like, unity gets Odin. Discord and infighting and all sorts of shit. That is Odin needs that. So damn, man. Like, come on.
I've lost myself before. More than once, but believe me, there is something beyond that.
And what is that?
Purpose. Purpose is the path that leads you to yourself.
So you would have me accept my fate? Lead your armies into war, secure your vengeance.
If securing our justice is not your purpose, then find another. For your own sake.
That's interesting. I mean, for Freya, I think that kind of misses the mark of like our justice. I mean, Tyr has made it pretty clear that he's not really interested in justice, at least from what I can recall. Like I haven't. I do think that if he's gonna take the path of I'm peace here, I have no interest in fighting. Then the sense that you would have to gain justice or vengeance via violence or uprising, he would be averse to. So that it is consistent to me. I think Freya missed the mark there in engaging with him. Is Tyr and Kratos' book, since he's not in Atreus? Let's take a look. Yeah, there he is. None have been so inspired as Atreus in the life of Tyr. Once a god of war in these lands, he dedicated himself to peace. A hero not only to mortals in Midgard, but to those in far-off lands of other pantheons to which he traveled in the name of diplomacy. Even the Jotnar revere him. It is believed his aid is what made the giants disappear, escaping Odin's wrath. I'm not certain he will prove as useful to us as Atreus hoped, either as a leader or a source of information, though perhaps patience will recover himself. Most importantly, he seeks neither war nor revenge, and suffering visited upon him. In this, I'm grateful. Okay.
Don't try to talk me into coming. The Norns and their tales of our fates, it's everything I've walked away from.
Okay. Good boundary setting. I won't bring you then, bud. Who do you think has surprised you the most so far? I don't really know how to answer that question, to be honest.
Does it hurt?
Oh, this? Only when I worry.
How would Atreus get to Asgard?
I'm sorry, but you'd have to ask Odin. He's got control of every path. I know how highly you esteem our expertise on such things, so I'm sure that's disappointing. He's just been one step ahead of us.
Oh man, Sindri is struggling. I think Atreus attacking him hurt him way more than just physically. Sindri doesn't really have much by way of relational engagement. He has Brock, but Brock stirs up a lot of guilt for Sindri because Sindri didn't restore all 4 pieces of Brock's soul, and there's a whole thing with that. And I think Sindri actually really valued his relationship with Atreus. I think probably to a point where he saw him as a parent by proxy. And when Atreus attacked him and turned on him and walked away from him, we think about Sindri in relationship to Atreus a lot. Like, Sindri was this support system for Atreus. Sindri enabled him to go do some of these things. But Atreus meant something to Sindri, too. Atreus is a very empathic and caring person. Brock is impenetrable in terms of, like, getting to his vulnerabilities. Brock is just joke here, funny haha there. He's a hard person to connect with. Kratos is a very difficult person to connect with. Atreus and Freya are about the only 2 people in this space that are easy to connect with. And Freya, for a long time, was trying to kill Atreus and Kratos, and Sindri was team Kratos and Atreus. So Sindri essentially lost, like, the one person that he had a really deep connection with that really gave him some relational purpose. And to have him get attacked like that, and then Atreus bails, I have to believe that 1, he's sad because of the fact that that happened, and 2, he's probably sad because he couldn't prevent it. He couldn't stop it. He sided with everybody else rather than Atreus. And he contributed to the push for Atreus to go. He's realizing in hindsight that a consequence of his lack of curiosity for what Atreus was doing was that Atreus bailed. And I think Sindri possesses enough self-reflection capacity to really go there. It's sad. You can see it on his face, which is just a big shout out to the animation team because like you can read the faces in this game impeccably, and it's like literally look at Sindri right now. That is a man who is really broken up about what happened. Oh, you can hear it in his voice too. Successful attacks against enemies will cleanse small amounts of Bifrost from the health bar. I'm not really interested in that. All damage dealt is increased while runic arrows are fully depleted. Uh, 41 to 50, 41 to 50. Eek, thank you for the 6 months. Yeah, he's struggling. By the way, thanks for being here, friends. If you're here on YouTube, thanks for watching these VODs. If you're here on Twitch, thanks for being here live with me. I am so grateful for all the support. I really can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day or night to engage with this content, to watch me, whether you've played through the game before, or whether this is your first time going through. If you're running through this fresh with me, I'm honored that you're letting me Sherpa you through this. If you've watched the game before and you know what happens, I'm honored that you're willing to watch me, given the fact that you know what happens. So regardless of how it is that you are watching this, thank you so much for supporting what I do. L, thank you for the 100 bits. And Steamboat Taco, thank you for the Prime sub. Appreciate it. What's going on here, Brock?
Hang on. I got something for you. Sindri!
Coming!
Before you go traipsing off into the dawn, I thought you'd like to have this back. Well, don't go getting too cheery about it, but you're welcome.
I've collected what we need to find the Norns. Shall we go?
Madam Neathog? Madam Neathog, where have you gone?
Neathog. I suspect we may have consequences to look forward to.
Kratos could learn to say thank you. It would help him a lot.
The boss is right there, sweating bricks on Main Street, and you're gonna go hit his time right now? Dick, move.
What?
He isn't coming. What do you need to talk to him for, anyway?
I guess I don't. Okie dokie. Thanks a million for your content. Playthrough has actually helped me understand the distance between my father and I, and has helped me mend that relationship with him. We've been distant since I was a teen. This has been a lightning on what could have caused that. Wow. I'm honored. And I appreciate you sharing that. That's really cool. Good for you for doing that work. Oh, there he is.
Squirrel.
Ah, Master Kratos, my apologies. Madam Neathog's disappearance weighs heavily on my mind.
She a friend of yours?
Less a friend than another longtime tenant of the tree.
She was here even before I arrived, and that was ages ago. To even think something could keep her away from her babies. Terrible, just terrible.
Okay. Well, I'd like to help if I could. All right. Back to Midgard.
We are certain Atreus could not still be in Midgard.
I was just there and found no trace. If Odin invited him, he must have provided a way.
No, that is not the only explanation. Tell me where we find these Norns.
I discovered some of their threads near the frozen lake. I stashed one for spellcrafting, but we may also use it to find them. Just remember, they really don't want to be found.
Well, at least things will be difficult for a change.
These people have really good boundaries, and we're gonna steamroll them for our own
We should take your sled
agenda.
and head to the lake.
Midgard. How I've missed the freezing gusts and constant raider attacks.
Well, that's because they believe Kratos is responsible for Fimbulwinter, and that killing him will end it.
Where would they get an idea like that?
From me, of course.
Of course.
Damn. Woo! Wow. That's cool that she owned up to it.
We should get down to the wolves, brother.
No, we will. Let me just check the house real quick. That's exactly what I'm talking about, though. When you control information, it's so powerful. Freya literally plans. It's Kratos. Kratos is the person who caused this. Kill him and it's over. Manipulate the uneducated. Just give them the messages. Don't give them the reality. Don't give them any access to the ability to figure this shit out themselves. Literally just tell the masses whose fault it is and let them just rabidly go after them. And if that doesn't sound like some shit that you've seen in real life, you haven't been paying attention.
I don't know what you're looking for out here, but when you want to find the Norns, we'll need to get back to your wolf sled.
All right, boys. Let's go. Yeah.
Come. Quiet. She is a friend. Now.
Better they get this from you.
No.
Once the wolves have the scent of the Norns, we'll just need to follow their lead.
Oh.
I will open the gate.
The doggies. They're good doggies.
Stop whining.
Hey.
Their fur is matted. When did you last brush them?
They are wolves.
And matted fur leads to disease. Take care of them, and they'll take care of you.
Yeah, Kratos, your son's not the only person that needs some TLC. Look at him. Look at his face. Look at his face. You gotta take care of him. You gotta take care of the puppy doggies. Come on. You gotta let people pet the dog. Are they girls? They're girl doggies? Okay. Good doggies.
Brother, what exactly do you intend to ask the Norns?
How I may find my son. Nothing more.
You don't imagine it's a chance to clear up all this mess about prophecy? Perhaps get a second opinion on your alleged demise.
You didn't tell me you had a death prophecy?
When Atreus and I reached Jotunheim, we found a hidden mural. The giants, Faye herself, had foreseen our entire journey long ago. Who we would meet, who we would fight. All of it, as it happened.
But you aren't dead.
That image was from a time yet to come.
I see. You've never struck me as someone who fears death. That's not the problem, is it?
No. Death can have me when it earns me.
Then maybe it's not the future that bothers you. Faye sent you on your journey, and she made sure you'd see that image at the end of it. And you're still not sure why.
I wish to speak of this no further.
Dude, what a badass. Death can have me when it earns me? Are you kidding me? Jesus Christ, Kratos. Oh, save some badassery for the rest of us, brother. Good Lord. Might be my favorite line he said in the entire game. It was freaking great. Jesus Christ. That's a great, like, song name or album name. Like, death can have me when it earns me. Jesus. Isaac, thanks for gifting that sub. Holy hell. All right, now, back to our regularly scheduled programming. Kratos is deceptively easy to read, especially for somebody like Freya. And I think it's very complicated for Kratos when Freya engages with him this way. I actually think that it was really easy for Kratos to an extent when Freya was being nasty and vindictive. I think it's a little bit harder for him emotionally when she is soft and available and insightful, because I think it reminds him of his wife. Faye is incredibly good at understanding Kratos and reading him and making it obvious that she can read him and understanding his convictions and knowing what matters to him. She makes it so that not speaking much is totally okay because she understands what's going on. Like, think of all the people that are around Kratos. Like, the general sentiment around Kratos is that we would all like him to talk more. We'd like him to use his words. And he doesn't. In part because he's not capable of it, in part because I think he doesn't want to. Well, when you have somebody like Freya in front of you who reminds you of your wife, who is now dead, that can be a very painful experience, even if it's one that you like. So Freya's coming at this with some real curiosity and with some empathy and with some understanding, and Kratos is like, I don't want to keep talking about this because it's painful. And he doesn't have the answers, and his son's not available, and he's not protecting his son. And it's hard. And so I'm not saying Kratos is going to fall in love with Freya. That's not what I'm talking about. Just the mechanisms of that dynamic, really tough for him. So him needing to set a boundary there so he can stay focused on what he needs to do, I think is perfectly okay. And Freya very clearly respects that because she understands him. So there's an intimacy that exists between Freya and Kratos because of how well Freya can read him that I think is actually quite beautiful. Side note, I really like that they added these like sledding things to the game. I think it's a cool way to traverse the area. Nice to go down this path without Freya trying to kill us. Lake of Nine.
Now that we are on the lake, how will we find the Norns?
Watch the wolves closely. See how their heads point the way?
Oh, because they can smell them. Ooh.
Well, Lake of Nine has certainly seen better days. Raiders have made themselves quite at home. Not sure I've been back to these parts since our great battle with Sigrun.
She speaks highly of that fight as well.
You know of that.
She told me all about it when she found me. She believed you could be an ally. Long before I believed it.
The Valkyrie Queen. An ally.
I'm the Valkyrie Queen, as Sigrun was stubbornly determined to remind me.
I should have guessed it was Sigrun helping you recover yourself. She's so loyal, wise, clever, tall.
All right, Mimir.
Doesn't take a love goddess to see where you're coming from.
I gotta see all the treasures that the Lake of the Nine has for me before we do anything important.
Are we holding off looking for the Norns?
No, I'm just checking out this door.
I'm all for exploring the area, but to be clear, it's down there we'll find the Norns.
I know, Freya, but we're gonna explore because that's what your boy does.
You won't believe it, Mimir. This crest belongs to Fjotorlund.
Fjotorlund, you say? Now that's where Sigrun was from.
Sigrun's curse.
Another crane.
Wow, what a dumbass throw that was. Oh shit.
Perhaps my arrows! The Alpha!
Oh, it's this thing.
Yet another sleeping beast. The handiwork of Alvi Stonefoot.
Blodgerstein. Casualties caused 78 dwarven, 3 other. Method of imprisonment, not slumber. Prison location, Midgard. Date of release, never, unless the witches of Vanaheim come up with a potion that turns aggression into something cuddlier. Even if you come into possession of a rousing relic, don't use it unless you're itching for a fight. Imprisonment overseen by AS, as in 1 letter away from what you can kiss if you keep making me carve reports into these tablets. Nice. I want to know how to fight these.
So this outpost is what's left of Fjotorlund. Sigrun spoke of growing up with these people before she joined the Valkyries. Seems it only rotates in the other direction.
Yeah, I know, Freya. That's pretty clear by the feedback that the mechanism gave me. Jesus.
We never do seem to get rid of those things.
Oh. Jeez. Maybe just, you know. Ooh, baby.
Watch it!
A musical instrument from your homeland, isn't it? Can you play?
Yes.
Will you?
No.
No.
Now, where have we seen an artifact like that before?
Tyr's vault.
Of course he doesn't want to play. That's cool that he can. Where is that located? Man, I want to read this. Where is it? I'm not gonna waste too much time on this. It's so the codex is so frustrating to me. Like I want to read it, but like there's no marker that says. So be it. It's in goals. Oh. There we go. Lyre, a stringed instrument. A lyre, to be precise. Kratos says he knows how to play, but refuses to do so, which means he's either lying, possible, or determined to deprive me of a good time, also possible. Though come to think of it, this is probably one of the few surviving artifacts from his homeland. Plucking the lyre strings might well take his mind back to that place. It may well be a journey he's not ready to go on. Yep. Lyra? Oh, that's how you say it. Okay. Thank you, Jonathan. No, no. I don't want to go there yet. Nope. 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 Oh, maybe. Okay, never mind. Maybe we have to go this way. Oh, no. Gotta. Oh boy, this is gonna be uncomfortable, but whatever. Boy, this is a lot of work just to. Dude, these PS5 controllers do not last very long. Do you think there was a more productive, empathic way for Heimdall to phrase his assessment of Atreus in the last part? I don't think Heimdall was trying to be productive and empathic. I think he was trying to be a douche. I mean, he could have been more curious and asked or said, "Are you interested in my thoughts about what you're up to?" and changed the tone in which he said it. But I don't really think that his point there was to be productive. His point was to assert power. I said I don't hate Heimdall. I saw that there were a couple comments on the last episode where people were like, "Wait, you like Heimdall?" Like, I don't like him, but I also don't hate him. Boom! Boom!
Good, that's the way.
Well, if that's the way, then
Look out! You know, brother, Sigrun told me her kingdom housed a great treasury filled with the spoils of her family's conquests. Perhaps this outpost holds some of that treasure.
Is that all she told you, Mimir?
Did she say where?
No, just that they kept it hidden.
must explore every nook and cranny. Must see everything this game has to offer.
What's that?
What's what?
Well done.
Perhaps those runes over there can shed some light.
But the big shiny chest's gotta go first.
What? No, she never mentioned.
An accursed name. Woe to the great Princess Sigrun. Her heart is broken and her mind may follow. She committed a sin for which there can be no redemption. She loved the wrong man. Handsome of a face and congenial of smile, he was perfect except for his name. King Helgi. Sigrun's father, King Hogni, would never approve of such a marriage for one simple reason. This was the name of his old enemy. So strong was Hogni's hatred of Helgi that he would never allow that man into his home. But Sigrun loved him still, and so she endeavored to convince her father that love could be stronger than hatred. She was mistaken. Well, this is an unexpected way to have a conversation about triggers. We're going to have a conversation about triggers. Trigger is a word that is overused in everyday vernacular when people are basically talking about something that makes them uncomfortable, something they don't like. We're going to talk about triggers in the legitimate trauma sense. So when you experience a trauma or you experience a series of events that are traumatic that you can attribute to one person, like in this case, Helgi, your brain tracks all sorts of aspects of the environment, sometimes down to the nitty-gritty, that it associates with the trauma itself. And so if King Helgi is somebody that Sigrun's father experienced a significant amount of strife and trauma and issues with, the name Helgi could certainly elicit a trauma response for him later down the line, even if it's from somebody who isn't Helgi. It's just the name. For example, let's say you were in a relationship with a person named Tom. And then all of a sudden, Tom was incredibly abusive. And then you get out of that relationship and it's a whole mess. And then let's say 10 years later, you're trying to date again and you find yourself averse to people named Tom on Tinder, people that might otherwise be totally consistent with you, but you swipe left on Tom's because it just creates some kind of emotional response from you that you don't quite understand. Or you meet somebody named Tom later on in life and you find yourself really upset. There's some emotional intensity around that. We might say that the name Tom, or in this case, the name Helgi, is a trigger because it pulls a trauma response from a moment that does not dictate the need for a trauma response. It's a completely unrelated scenario with one commonality. You are responsible for knowing and understanding what your triggers are. If you experience something traumatic and there are legitimate triggers that elicit that trauma response from you in unrelated scenarios. And only you are responsible for knowing what those are. There is a tendency for people to believe that when you name your triggers, it means that every single person in a given context is then responsible for helping you avoid that trigger. And while that can sometimes be done as a courtesy, it is also generally impossible to move through the world in a way where all triggers are removed. And so when we talk about triggers in therapy and in trauma work, we talk about being accountable and responsible for one's own triggers, where you are the one who has to decide what you're going to do when a trigger presents itself. We create certain strategies. Now, can some form of engaging with that trigger be to ask people not to say or do the thing that's triggering? Sure. Do people have to comply with that? No, depending on the context. So all of this is to say that Hogni decided to activate based on his trauma response in seeing and hearing the name Helgi in a situation that did not call for that response, which was essentially to avoid, diminish, and activate power over Helgi. And it was to the detriment of his relationship with his daughter. Because this is not the same Helgi. At least that's my understanding. If it is the same Helgi, I'm not really worried about it because the point I'm making here is about triggers. So, is it okay for him to acknowledge that the name Helgi triggers him? Yes. Is it also his responsibility to work through it in such a way that he doesn't make a rash decision about how his daughter can navigate being with a person named Helgi? Yeah, he's got to manage that. He's got to learn how to navigate that. So trigger management is a very important part of trauma work, because when people expect the entire environment and other people to manage their triggers on behalf, you are actually disempowering yourself from working through the thing that has elicited the trauma response from you. Trauma is an unfair proposition. Trauma means that something happens to you and then you're left to pick up the pieces of it. And unfortunately, some of the pieces you have to pick up is learning how to navigate and manage triggers rather than expecting everybody to manage them on your behalf. It's also very important to make a distinction between a legitimate trigger and something that is simply uncomfortable for you. If Helgi is a name that triggers Hogni immensely to a point that he's willing to sacrifice his relationship with his daughter and prevent this guy entirely from coming into his home, well, that we would probably argue is a trigger because it's causing some real significant causing some really significant distress and issues in his life. He's making certain decisions that he might not otherwise make because of it. It's not simply a discomfort that he's trying to avoid. I realize this is relatively long-winded, but this provides, I think, a nice opportunity for that. And again, I can just see comments now of people being like, no, this is the actual Helgi. So, and even if that's true, the point I'm making is still true. That, like, maybe Helgi changed. I don't know. Right? Maybe this is a person who just named Helgi and it pulls that up for him. The point of this analysis is to talk about triggers, not to be pitch perfect with whatever this lore entry is saying. So whether it was actually Helgi or whether it was somebody else named Helgi, trigger management, still the same. I've made my point. The scroll bar doesn't do anything. There's no additional context from what I read. All right.
Is that a key?
I don't know, but it's very beautifully laid out in front of this bird statue.
Wonder what lock that key belongs to.
No lock. It is broken.
Not broken. It's just split in half. Perhaps we could find its partner.
Perhaps. Why don't we? Huh? We're already here. Ooh, yikes. Down we go. Whee! Also with like the trigger talk, that's why I always say it's the viewer, like when we're watching these streams, I know I talk about some intense stuff sometimes. There's some intense stuff that happens in games. It's your responsibility as a viewer to manage your own triggers. If I had to manage everybody's triggers, I would have to just say everything could be a potential trigger warning. So if there is at any point in any of these playthroughs something that we talk about or something that happens that does legitimately trigger you, please take it upon yourself to take care of yourself. It's a word that is just massively overused. And the problem is that when it's overused, like anything else, it delegitimizes when people actually have legitimate triggers that they need to work through and talk about. And people go, oh, geez, another person who's triggered. It's why you really should avoid using that word unless we're talking about something legitimate.
Behind you, Kratos!
These guys.
Behind! Incoming! Behind you! Watch out!
So badass that she like has those Valkyrie wings. All right. Away we go.
Mimir, what did those runes say?
Sigrun. She loved another. A king named Helgi. Seems they were madly in love. But her parents wouldn't let them marry.
Oh, come, Mimir. You really didn't think you were her first love, did you?
Aye. Suppose I did.
Man's got some history. Yeah, that's good personal growth, Dante. That's why we learn. 'Cause then we can interact with the world in a more meaningful way. What is this? Okay. All right, let's go, doggies.
This thread of fate we are tracing.
It's not somebody's life, if that's what you mean. The Norns use it to mark their way when they're outside of the well.
The Norns live in a well.
No. The Well of Earth, their home, is hard to explain. It's in no fixed place. Entrances come and go. A place wholly under their influence, where the intangible becomes tangible.
Brother, what is it?
The wolves are distracted.
Behind you!
Incoming fire!
This guy's just like trying to live his life, and I come in here just like ruining it. Like the guy's just trying to like craft a sword for his kid. The guy over there is just like trying to take a shit because the cook made something that didn't taste very good. It's poisoned. And I come in here and I'm just like, yo, what's up? Time to die.
You're on fire, Kratos! It will pass! Fire behind you!
Alka!
Oh, yeah.
Suspect that's all of them.
These were coal raiders. Infamous for...
Eating wolves. Atreus and I rescued ours from such an encampment.
That was... kind of you. The coal raiders have been a blight on this land. The way they've abused its creatures. Perhaps we should do something about them.
Perhaps.
Up to you, brother. If the Norns know the future, no doubt they'll expect us to show up a bit late.
You mean exactly when we're meant to? Like true wizards? Man, we got side quests to do now. Viking's gift.
When you enter the Norn's domain, it can be disorienting. Like being inside your own mind.
But if we go in together, are we in each other's minds? Not so sure I like the sound of that.
Guess we'll find out, big dog. Hop in, Freya.
Mimir, have you encountered these Norns?
Not personally. Freya's right. They have ways of discouraging visitation. Odin made his share of efforts. Wouldn't talk about what he found. Either he gave up, or he wanted to forget what he saw.
Look, there's some debris over there. I'm guessing from Tyr's poor statue.
Gauntlets of guiding light. My luck goes way up. Melee attacks have a luck chance to critically strike, creating a damaging explosion. Ooh, I kind of like that. Let's rock it. Staggering area of effective tactic deals frost status to all nearby enemies.
Defend the peace.
I remember the Jotnar crafting these bracers for Tyr's statue. They chose only their most talented and accomplished to do the job.
You have a good memory, Freya. Like Tyr, the Jotnar also believe the best offensive strategy is a good defense. So, this is how they chose to honor him.
The giants were not wrong.
I scouted ahead. The lake's crawling with raiders. Be careful.
Can't believe we missed this. When you want to find the Norns, we'll return to the stone.
We got a lot of shit to do. So we're not leaving here. This is great. We got a plethora of activities to do.
Freya, you mind telling us what you experienced when you sought the Norns last time?
To be honest, the details are hazy. Like waking up from a dream. Mainly, I remember that nothing could be done to change my son's fate. Which only made me more determined to try.
Yay, can't wait for that.
Brother, what of your story? You faced the fates of your homeland, yeah?
Hold. Let us search this area.
Ah, I want to hear that.
The Oarsmen. A monument to conquerors.
Made some lovely warships, though.
You are correct, Fox. All right, let's fight this thing. Reach in.
Left side, Kratos!
Oh my god. Slam. That was cool. Hey, Freya. Hey, Freya. Another one? Oh. Cool. All right. Nice. All your stuff. Hey, this looks familiar. This is where we came with Atreus. I knew this looked familiar. Yeah, they really do, Sky. This is where we saw the snake with Atreus. He came out with Sindri. Took me a little bit. Took me a little bit to realize that, but... Very cool.
Mimir, look. Another Fjotalund marking.
Aye, this place must have been part of Sigrun's kingdom. A first outpost preceding further expansion.
Hey. Cool. Let's go down here and kick some ass, huh?
Changing arrow.
Oh boy.
Behind you.
This is a tomb.
Are you trying to 100% the game? Not really. If I do, I do. If I don't, I don't. I do plan to do all the side quests, though. I don't know that I'm gonna, like, do all the ravens and shit like that, but... Alright.
There must be another way around.
Must be. Has to be. No way there isn't.
Looks like there's a staircase on the other side.
Is that what that is? Alright, 1, 2... Yeah, here we go. What, it's 1 a.m.? Oh, wait, no, it doesn't. Isn't it at 2 a.m. becomes 3 a.m.? Oh, I haven't had that happen yet. No time change yet for me. Alright, staircase on the other side. Yes, indeed. We gotta climb over here, I think. Nobody gets 2 a.m. today.
Watch yourself.
Whoa.
The Alpha.
Whoa. 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 No.
Incoming back here.
Oh, shit.
The Alpha.
Ah.
Sad to see Sigrun's homeland in such a terrible state.
You know, Mimir, if you want to take a tour of her kingdom, you might not like everything you find.
So, she loved another before me. There are worse things to discover about someone you love.
Yes, there certainly are.
Yeah. Yes, doesn't everybody here know it? Big ass chain. Yeah, I find that pretty humorous too, Skye.
The other half of the key.
Maybe those runes can give us a bit of history about this place.
It's a broken amulet of Yggdrasil. It can be used to allow the amulet to hold additional
Are we
chance.
sure we want to
Cool.
leave? The other half of the key must be around here somewhere.
I wanna do this door. I want to see what's over here first. Oh, that's just a shortcut. Neat. Love the way they do that. First, let's read this tablet.
That can't be.
It is.
Oh, Mimir.
Story. The death of Helgi. Ash to ash, bones to bones, where love cannot live, death takes hold. Here are the words of Prince Dagger. My spear drips righteous and red from the blood of that cad King Helgi. My father, in his wisdom, denied him the hand of my sister, Princess Sigrun, knowing his true and dark nature. Enraged by this slight, King Helgi gathered his forces and invaded our land, determined to claim his bride. His murderous soldiers dipped their swords into the hearts of all who opposed their unclean union. Mother, father, all my brothers hunted down and slaughtered, all because he was denied my fair sister. The only male of my line left standing, I impaled the villain Helgi on my spear, did my duty, and avenged my family. Yeesh! God damn it. try this again. And I whiffed. Try it again. God, I'm gonna need to do this one first. Oh my gosh. Boy, I am really dropping the ball on this. Really?
Go this way.
Give me that apple.
I knew those key pieces would fit. Can't wait to see what lock it belongs to.
Open the treasury door. Ooh. Ooh. Do this more intelligently than I did.
King Helge massacred her family just because he couldn't have her. Only her brother, Prince Dogger, survived to kill the Mad King.
Sigrun and her brother had issues over that.
Oh, and all the time Sigrun and I spent with each other, she never mentioned anything about this.
Maybe she liked the way you saw her.
Yep. You're not really owed people's past. I mean, it generally helps when we know what people have done in their past, but if there's stuff that happened in the past that doesn't necessarily directly affect you, you don't necessarily have to have that information. Probably the most common example of this you see in intimate relationships is when people want to know their partner's sexual history. If it's important for you to know that and you have to know it in order to engage with somebody, fine. But people don't have to disclose that information to you unless they have some sort of fallout from that in the form of maybe like person had like HIV or something. They should disclose it to you. But like you're not owed that information. You're not entitled to it. If it's important for you to have it and you make a relationship decision as a result of not being given it, that's fine.
Now, brother,
But
what about when you faced the fates of Greece? The legends I heard about the ghost of Sparta were surely exaggerated.
Exaggerated?
Oh, not in the brazen bloodshed righteous fury part. The part where it said you travelled back in time itself to win a battle once lost. It's strange credulity, obviously. I mean, a rumour about Thor knocking the world serpent back in history from Ragnarok is one thing.
It is the truth. The threads of fate span all life and time. The Sisters of Fate abused their power. When I challenged them, they threatened to undo my existence. So I killed them and turned their power on Zeus.
That's the most dangerous and irresponsible thing I've ever heard. These Norns have no such magic, nor does anyone in these realms that I've ever seen.
Aye, can you imagine? If it existed, Odin would have it. And if Odin had it, we'd be 5 shades more fucked than we are already.
I would not ask them to change the past, even if they could. I only want information.
And that's quite dangerous enough, in my experience.
Should it be concerning if a partner doesn't want to disclose that information to someone they're in a long-term relationship with? No. You're the one that decides whether that's concerning, but people have their reasons. You can be curious about it. Again, if it's important for you to know the information and to make a decision about whether to proceed in the relationship, that's fine. But is it concerning? That's for you to decide.
Me of my appetite, but damn if I can't stop thinking about the smell of tear stew. Awakened a fair few culinary cravings, it did. Black pudding, haggis and neeps. Oh,
Porridge and honey.
what about you, brother? Any pre-Fimble winter foods you're aching for?
Olives.
The hell's an olive?
How strange. I've never seen that building before.
Aye, very strange indeed. Let's take a closer look.
Love that. Olives. Man, this looks super neat. It'd be pretty cool when we go walk into it in part 19, huh? This is where we're going to end it for the evening. I need to go eat some olives. No, but seriously, before you go, please leave a like, leave a comment. I'm grateful that all of you made it this far into the playthrough and into part 18. It was a pleasure to get a little bit of story and then to have a little bit of side quests. If you're a person who's like, Dr. Mick, don't do the side quest, do the main story. I'm sorry, we're doing the side quest. So we're going to have some nice side quest episodes here for a little while. I am so grateful that you watch these streams and that you engage with them. And I hope you'll share them with people that you think could enjoy or benefit from them. And yeah, if you're binging, I'll see you in part 19 where we go through this cool little vault thing. If you are waiting for the next episode to come out, we'll try to get it out as fast as we can. But thank you for everything. See you in the next one.